Well, maybe we're getting up. Still don't have anything showed up, I don't think. Well, if you can hear me, it took a while to get the connection up. YouTube kept saying that there was no streaming available, but it looks like it's up now. It says good connection. I don't know what that looks like on your end, but hopefully it is. And we'll see if everybody can kind of catch up here. I reset the time for 8 o'clock, so we'll see. Hi, Digging. Don't know if you can hear me. We're having some trouble. YouTube said there was no streaming available, and so it was delayed about 30 minutes getting on, and now it says that its current bit rate's low, so I don't know whether it's on their end or my end. Ontario, Canada. I had a lot planned for tonight anyway. Hopefully we get this thing going. Hi Aaron, good evening to you. We're a little bit delayed. Hopefully it picks up a little bit here. YouTube said no streaming, and then I finally got through on one, and now it says low bit rate, so I don't know what it looks like on your end, but anyway. Well, that's good, Digging. You say you can hear fine, so. Laura's in there watching, so. Hi, 1,000 Yard, how are you? So we're picking up a few here. We got all kind of stuff set up here. Hopefully we can be able to do. I pulled out some things from chain troubleshooting. I don't know what everybody would like to talk about tonight, but we've got some things set up here to look at portions of the video, kind of talk through some chain stuff if y'all want to. Yeah, it's showing like less than let's see, 756 kbps, so it's a slow one. Hey Nick, watched you last night. Y'all had a great program. It went really good. Yeah, I don't know. I've got really slow bit rate, which I don't have much in internet service here, but I tried to get on at 7, and it had it said YouTube said no streaming available right now, and then finally got through to it, but it's at a very low bit rate. It's less than 1 Mbps. It's like 756. And you still got problems with saws leaking bar oil. I don't know of too many saws that don't leak a little bit. Are you talking about around the cap, or you seen it come out behind the bar or at the bar? Most of the time, saws, according to weather changes and stuff like that, especially if you've got the bar oil reservoir fairly full, it'll hydraulic out. That's pretty common things. Everybody talks about that. You know, you put it in a nice clean case, you come back in a week, and it's got a few ounces down in the bottom. Sometimes they'll pump the whole tank dry, but it's a hydraulicking that happens if you open up and let it kind of equalize. Sometimes it'll last for a while, or don't have your tank full. Very good. Yeah, Nick, I'd like to chat with you and see how you had all that set up there last night. It really worked really well. I don't know what kind of internet you have, but it was so clear and everything was great. Which you had 2 good guests, so that always makes it nice too. Thanks, Nick. We'll talk to you later. Yeah, Aaron, which saw is it that's puddling out on you there? Yeah, if it has a gear drive pump on it, sometimes you can turn the pump drive just a little bit. Not the adjustment I'm talking about, but actually the worm gear drive or the spring wire drive. You can turn it just a little bit, and that will move the pump piston to a different area. It's a straight rod, and then it has a chamfered end on it. And so if it's in one position, they'll tend to hydraulic out a little bit. But you have to kind of look and see where the puddle's coming from. It could be on a feed line or out of the air bleed too. There's a air bleed on a lot of the saws that allows air to get back into the tank so the oil can get out. So 572 XP, yeah, it's probably hydraulicking out unless it's leaking where the line comes out of the pump and into the tank. You can see it on the back side of the bar pad area there probably. But most of the time it's going to hydraulic out if you leave a good bit of oil in there. Sometimes helps to loosen the cap a little bit lower on oil. But I've got a 562 and also a steel 362, and both of them will hydraulic out a little bit if you have the tanks full. Yeah, 1,000 Yard. Nick is the bomb when it comes to videos. He had quite a show there last night. It was well put together, and he must have a really good internet out at his shop there. Oh no, that's bad, Aaron. That's going to set up some vibration there too. Just chip the outside of the shoe or something coming off. Have to be careful with that if the hub cracked at all. Yeah, it takes some special tools sometimes on some of those reverse threads and stuff. Yeah, the 572, I have seen them leaking at that line that comes into the back side out of the tank, so I have to kind of look at that. But that's been something I've heard for years, about get a brand new chainsaw and put it in a nice clean case and then wonder how come it's leaking oil. But there's a lot of them that are that way. It used to be even worse back in the old diaphragm pump days. Yeah, the 572 is a neat design to work on, and that's a powerhouse there too, that's for sure, for its size. I toted one of those around for several years. 571, 572s. I went to the 562. It doesn't have quite the torque that 572 does, but it's a little lighter. Well, hopefully everything's still staying clear there. It's looks like there's a couple more signing on, but it's really a delay here on my end. So yeah, the XL12, that was a manual drive and automatic with the had the diaphragm pump and then also the manual pump on the older ones, and it would bleed back down and had to pump it up again. And keep your thumb in good shape, being able to pump that thing. But that was a saw back in the late 70s through the early 80s. I think I sold more of those out of the shop than about anything. Super XL12, they came with the automatic oiler at that time. You had it actually both ways, it was set up both. And then I had the Lombard Comangos, which was kind of a copy of the XL12, and it just had the manual pump on it. A lot of people still liked it. Volume is a bit low, huh? Might be able to turn up just a little bit. Got a little boom mic there, so hopefully that helps out a little bit. So 1965 model air, and that'd be a blue one. I can't remember the year the red ones came out, but 65 probably a blue one. Hopefully that sounds a little bit better there, 1,000 yard. Has anyone seen the video that I published, I guess, last week on saw chain troubleshooting? Wonder what you thought about that. If it helped out on anything. We had I had several questions over the past 2 or 3 weeks in training classes. You know, sharpening is always a big draw as far as everybody's interest, but then nobody wants to do it in the field. Seems like everybody is out and trying to run them as long as you can between sharpenings. And the cool thing about it is that everybody always told me that if you look below the rivets, you can find out a lot about your sharpening. And so I really started paying a lot of close attention to that, and it does make a big difference when you understand what causes the different wear on the teeth and on the tie straps. So it's pretty cool to look through that. Hopefully you've seen the video. So you got a blue one and a red one, Aaron. So you're well home lighted. I was going to try this and see how this comes across. See if it'll.
Welcome.
It'll actually,
this video will cover inspection of the saw chain, how the saw chain works, and its important parts.
But let's see. Get up here to this one area and wondering how this really works. It kind of goes through a little bit here on what to look for. You know, I had a friend of mine been collecting some chains for me, and he had some good ones here. Some of them he got his money's worth on them for sure. This was one of them, had some really worn teeth on it, and so that's one of the first things to look for. And then also to look, and this was something I thought was pretty good. Let's see if I can get back over to this. But the witness marks, and if you look on this one, his guys had filed this thing back almost to the witness mark, and look how perfect that angle is. I mean, it's pretty much dead on it all the way back that far. I thought that was some pretty good filing going on. See if I can get this thing over to the other side. There we go. And then and he had some of them, you know, when they get dull, or that one had a broken tooth on it. They ended up with it kind of in the back of the truck, got kind of rusty. But I see quite a lot of people trying to run the chains with them rusted or a little bit beat up and covered in sap. And so what happens there, if the rivets can't move easily, then you end up with some wear at the heels of the teeth and the tie straps with that also. And then I think Wayne had said there's one there on the point damage. And that causes the chain. First time you start seeing that, and most of mine when it happens, I'll go through a log or something and I won't see a little rock, or I just touch the ground. End up with it really dull in the right side tips. Usually the right side points. It's what usually happens with me. You can see on this one, it has a real rounded over point. It's not going to cut at all. So, that's something that you have to really look for, to start pulling to the sharpest side very quickly. Yeah, Aaron, on the chains, I use on just about all my equipment I have for years, Oregon 72 LP or LG, and I have used years ago when doing a lot with the logger training, was looking at the 72 CK, a semi-skip full chisel, and so I've used that quite a lot over the years. But in most of my training and work that I do now, we're working with the cities, counties, and states, and so most all the time I'm running 72 LG round filed. So it's that's what I use a lot of, and I've got the two saws I take with me most of the time, actually three, but a 20-inch bar pretty much gets me through most all the training situations I have, unless I go out to California working with the counties out there, and so I take a little bit longer there, but and usually use their saws, but it's not as much the chain as it is, keeping it sharpened. I've used quite a lot of steel chain over the years too, the 33 RS, and I've been playing with the new 30. It's actually 36 Hexa, which hopefully be out in March, and that. The steel chain holds an edge very well. There's no doubt. I think it's a little bit harder to keep an edge on it sharpening unless you're using a machine. But the Oregon, it works for me, and it's easy to sharpen. Not quite as hard of a surface, but it does pretty good. Both of them, if you hit something, it's going to be dulled. And I find many times. To repair it, it's about the same. You just have to. I take a good sharp flat file and take it back off, square everything back up, and then round file the edge back onto it. It takes a lot less strokes that way. Yeah, the Husqvarna X-Cut is really good right out. I've messed with it a little bit. And it's kind of like the Oregon X2. It's a little bit more aggressive out of the box, and that was the whole concept with it. A lot of people always said, that they needed to file the chain right out of the box, new, and so Oregon started producing a little bit more hook on the tip, and Husqvarna's X-Cut, basically the same thing. So it comes out of the box a little bit more aggressive, but most of that goes away once you start to round file it out. But by that time you start to set the depth gauges and keep it aggressive at that point anyway. But I'm talking about the. This is one that you can kind of see. It's looking at the hook. And if you look on this chain, the picture's not really clear, but right in here, the area underneath the tie strap or underneath the tooth heel is worn more than the front. And that's because a hook chain tends to roll backwards more during the cutting process. A lot of people don't realize that the chain actually pulls away from the bar as it's cutting, and the tooth has to rock and roll back and forth and side to side. And so it causes a little bit more wear if you've got that hook on there. Or in some cases with the depth gauge down also. That'll cause it to take and kind of cause more wear there too. Like this one, the tooth is in pretty good shape on it, but the depth gauge is way down, and you can see this wear below the rivet on it also. Somebody had taken that one down just a little bit. So looking at the wear below the rivets is something that can really show up on your filing. Then also checking the flexing and wear on the chain. You can flex it back and forth, compare a new one to a worn one, and then also taking and pushing against the rivets to see the wear there. So, and then the other one that's kind of unique is looking at the drive links. See if I can find that picture. Oh, you can kind of see on this one, the drive links are really starting to thin out there, and some of them will even start to wear down in this area. If you look at a new chain, it's very squared on those edges, so that kind of shows you that the chain comes out of the rail and then kind of wobbles side to side as it's clearing the chips. Let's go back here and look at a couple questions. Digging the hexafile, which I've only had one of them, and it's still cutting a little bit, but I've kind of set it behind just to have it to play with a little bit. But I've only had the one file, and I've sharpened the chain back to about 30% with it, the one actual steel chain, and then I've sharpened up another steel chain and another Oregon chain with it, and the file is holding up pretty good. So I've been impressed with it. I think y'all are gonna enjoy playing with it as soon as they get these things out to the dealerships. It's pretty impressive. I mean, it's not a square file, but it is something I think it's going to be a little bit faster and smoother and easier to sharpen than a round filed, actually, because it kind of guides everything. The way the flat surfaces sit down in the gullet area on the base of the chain tooth, I mean, it kind of guides everything through. You don't have to worry about high or low and keeping the chisel angle and stuff like that in proper position. It's pretty cool. I've been impressed so far. I go back here and take a look. What y'all think about my big tooth there? I've had I had 3 of those back from the mid '80s, and I think I've given a couple of them away. I've only got one of the chrome ones left now, but Oregon had given them to me back years ago, and I've got a whole a training tooth set that they produce. It's pretty cool. It's in plastic. But anyway, if you look, the best place to start to look at everything is on a new chain, and just to point out what we were talking about last there on the drive links, you can kind of see the shape. It's very squared on those stampings, and when you look after it's starting to run a while, you start to see that polishing on both sides of it, and that'll show you that the chain is coming out of the rail, and it should come out some, but you have to think about chain adjustment also helps to track that chain and keep all the movements correct. Yeah, Aaron, I've used the triangle 6-sided files. Most of the time, though, I started off with those, and then Ferd started producing, the double bevel. I had some of the Sandvik single bevels that Soren had brought over from Europe, and then Ferd started producing the double bevel, and I've been using those ever since. The triangle file is it does a good job. It's a little bit harder to hold to keep your angles, so you got to be a little bit straighter, freehanding. The double bevel is, I think, a little bit easier to see, to get everything going, and I sharpen from the inside to the outside on the square files. But then the other thing too, with the double bevel, you've got a flat file there with two sides for setting your depth gauges. So it makes a pretty versatile file to carry to the field. So that's the reason why I always use the double bevel. And the single bevel was a little bit lighter to carry around. You just had to keep flipping it. And you probably don't use all of the flat surface on the double bevel that much in the field, but it's also a little bit more rigid too. You don't get any flex. I did some of with the single bevel chisel bit files, you get a little bit of flex with them if you're not careful, if you set it up into a vise situation. But I always just kind of preferred the double bevel. I know a lot of the guys in the West, they use the goofy version of the double bevel also. It's not actually a double bevel. It's a flat file looking with a semi-rounded side on it, and they use the goofy file, they call it, and it cuts kind of a rounded side plate there, and it's pretty fast. It does a good job too. But everybody's got their own preference. I think for chisel bit square filing, I like the double bevel. Are these are the pictures showing up pretty good over the stream? Kind of interested in that because I've got quite a bit of stuff that we can do on live presentations if I can get this to go. The problem, the biggest thing I have here at home is I don't have any internet service. I'm hoping that 5G stuff gets out here before long, and I'll be able to work with the MiFi a little bit faster. But right now I just don't have anything. We're over a DSL phone line, and it's very, very slow. And then the MiFi, I've got pretty decent 4G, but it goes up and down, but still not enough to really do much with. Well, that's great, Dig. Great. Thanks for the pictures. Are good. That's Aaron, you saying you can't find the double bevel? The double bevels are Bailey's has the double bevels pretty much all the time, the furred ones. I haven't done anything in Oklahoma for several years. I had some U.S. Forest Service stuff that we did out there, but no, I haven't been to Oklahoma with any of the training over the past 4 or 5 years anyway. Oh, can't find the goofy files. Yeah, I don't know. They may be pretty extinct. I haven't tried to find those. Bailey's used to have those also, because Nick used to keep me supplied with them when I asked about them. But I don't know. I think those are a Sandvik. So I'm not sure on that. A file cleaning video? No, I haven't. I know we used to do a few tricks out in the field with using vinegar, and then also brushes. But Might be able to set something up on that. I will make a note, Digger. Yeah, Madson's keeps a good supply on that stuff out there. They've always had good supplies on that. I don't know, yeah, I don't know. Maybe the goofy version is kind of gone by the wayside because the files had gotten so expensive. But there may not be too many playing with those or stocking those anymore. Yeah, I think there was one. It was a lubricant that was used mostly for seals and stuff. It was an additive. It would keep seals, like hydraulic seals or crankshaft seals, kind of soft and they would kind of expand a little bit. And I had some of that stuff that you could take and put a rusted file in there, and I mean it came out just like brand new. And then I had a friend that he got into cryogenics, and that's using sub-zero temperatures to harden the file instead of heat treating. And it was quite interesting. It didn't have the bluing effect that you had with the heat, so the rust would set in pretty fast. But I used vinegar a good bit on those. But that was kind of unique, and there were several manufacturers that started to look at that, going with cryogenics. So I know Ferd played with it a little bit, and he's one of the guys we had. He was competing in the Arbor Games, Arbor Master training, and he I don't know if he still plays with it much or not anymore, but that was a neat concept on hardening files. Aaron, how many sharpenings can you get? I mean, it has a lot to do with the pressure, how clean you keep your chain, and those kinds of things. But I did several pretty extensive studies on, I guess, testings on round file and chisel bit files, and also sharpening on carbide chain. And I found that most of the time on round files, if you had dirty conditions like log job or firewood that's been drug in the mud, those kinds of things, even in those cases, I would get pretty much about 14 filings, complete chain filings, out of one file. And so, in other words, that's taking one chain and being able to sharpen it 14 times. So that was what I had in some of the little study things that I did back years ago. But I found that the best thing to do is to keep it away from the abrasion as much as possible, and that makes the files last a lot longer. Matter of fact, I have over the past I guess 4 or 5 years, I bet I haven't gone through a dozen files sharpening teeth back to the witness marks. It's you keep the teeth pretty clean and keep them out of the dirt, and you can do pretty well with them. But I've used the Ferd files, and then the smooth cuts and the Oregon files, and that's pretty much what I've used over the past few years. I went through on that video. If you hadn't seen it, there's 12 chains that Robert collected for me, and this one was one I think he really got his money's worth out of it. It's all the way back behind the witness marks in some areas, and I think that chain was probably still cutting pretty good. But this was I think a steel chain. I think it had the little dots on it. No, I think it's an organ chain, but no, it's a steel, and so it's the drive links held up very, very well on it all the way back there. And I don't know whether they were cutting a lot of dirty wood or what with it. Had to file a lot, but it held up very well and was probably still cutting pretty good. Had one full skip chain that don't know if I got a real good picture of it or not, but on it I think it was number 8. Let's see. Yeah, there's a full skip, and if you look at one thing that happens a lot on let's see, where is it? On the full skips, I think it had a broken tooth on it too. But one thing that happens is because a round filed tooth has to move farther to the side to clear the chip. So it actually, when it comes off of the rails, you've got your drive link down into the bar rail, and with it being round filed, it has to move farther left and right. The cutters have to move farther each side to be able to clear the chip, whereas square ground chain is kind of like a V-tool instead of a gouge. Once that point bites in on it stays straight, and that's the reason why it cuts so fast and smooth. And so when you get it into full skip chain, it tends to want to come out and then move to the sides farther on full skip than on full complement, because the teeth stay out sideways longer. And so a lot of people, if you've got round filed on full skip, you'll start to see a lot of drive link wear. And well, I don't know where that. I thought it was number 8. Maybe I don't have a bunch of good pictures of it there. You can see it if I ran the video, I guess. But so that's something to think through. And I did quite a lot of work years ago with the Bell harvesting machines with the 404 pitch square ground full skip, and they were buying at that time, bringing it over with the machines from South Africa, and it had round file, but the bar wear was just out of this world. So started working with them and went to square grind on it, and the bar wear diminished. I mean, it was just like nothing after that. So let's see, Wayne, when does the skip tooth chain work the best? Well, skip tooth, the design of it actually was to be able to go with longer bar lengths. You know, when you got back into the saws in the 60s and 70s, the chains would really clog up, especially in Doug fir, redwoods, and softer hardwoods like poplar and those kinds of things, and then also the yellow pines down south. And in a long bar, it would try to recut and recut. And so it pulled the power of the saw down quite a lot. You know, if you get into a big tree, sometimes you got to kind of pull the saw bar back out, clear the chips a little bit. Well, the skip tooth in either semi-skip or full skip gives more chip removal clearance. And so the chain doesn't recut the chips as many times in the kerf, and helps to drag them out a little bit longer pieces. And so it doesn't pull your saw power down either. So it takes less power to pull it. And what we found out back in the 80s and 90s was that even on the newer saws, when you got into like steel 38 supers and 572 Husqvarnas and that kind of stuff, 372s, if you went with 20 24-inch bar, even, you had chain speeds in the kerf sometimes close to 10,000 RPM, which most chains wouldn't take and clear that chip at those kinds of RPMs. About 9,500 was about it. And you could take and go to a full skip or semi-skip. You had a third to a half of the number of teeth to sharpen. Now, if you did hit something, you had a lot more teeth dulled at one time, but it was much, much faster to sharpen. You still had good chain life, and as long as, especially if you were square grinding, square filing, you didn't have much side wear, and so it works out really, really good. So skip tooth on higher RPM saws in the kerf can be a big advantage, and especially if you're into softer hardwoods or green hardwoods. It can pick up a little bit of vibration, if you're in a real dried wood or a real solid tight grain hardwood, but it's very, very little. And a lot of the times back in the mid 80s, early 90s, kind of got away from it because it was kind of deemed as a little bit more reactive chain, and that is true because of the distance between you. If you drop the RPM, you can pick up a little bit more grabs and kicks. So it's something you have to be kind of cautious with there. But you keep the RPM up, it's very, very smooth. Really no negatives to it. And if I'm out really working with the saw, I'm usually going to be running semi-skip with square ground, because that's pretty smooth, fast cutting chain, and don't have as many teeth to keep sharp. Let's see here. Go back over there to the office here. But it's a good questions tonight. I appreciate y'all dropping by. If I can ever get all this system set up here, we'll be able to really get going with the live presentations. I've got another camera set up so we can be able to use the board and look at some things there. And then I've got it set so we can do quite a lot with you can see this camera set up over here. So I've got the whiteboard back here we can use. So answer a lot of questions and stuff about saws and safety. But I've really enjoyed starting to work again with all the videos and all. I was looking back, I had the YouTube channel, first videos were like 1996. I guess I came up because I was doing a lot up in Illinois with the University of Illinois, and that was pretty much where the internet really got started in the States. And those guys were really working on getting all that going. And I had one of the first internet, my website to go up in I think 96, and I started doing a little bit of video stuff and put it on YouTube. So some of the early ones I had on starting and those kinds of things were from 1996 or 97. And then I haven't done anything with it until this past year. And because of all the needs of virtual stuff, I had to put together a whole a training program, really 2.5 hours. My indoor presentation, I've taken and put it on video, and if anybody's interested in it, let me know. But I did it for a risk management group up in New England because they couldn't get together with people, because they had to have all the social distancing, and they didn't do any training for their people for, I don't know, probably 6 months. So I put that together and made it available to them, and I've used it up in Illinois, a little bit around the Chicago area, but it's basically, I think, a pretty good presentation of my 2.5 hour inside board work and discussing it all. And then we were able to still go outside after that, later on, after they watched the video systems, go outside for the demonstrations. And so it kind of fulfilled having the inside talks and chats going on. So I've got all of that available. So I got back into it and then decided to start videoing some of our travels. A lot of people have asked us about that. We stay on the road so much, and traveling in the motorhome and all, and so to be able to kind of keep up with our travels is always kind of neat. And I enjoy going back over and watching and looking at them with all the different guys and the places that we go. Yeah, digging I just have a little bit on the square grind. There's as far as on the sharpening videos, but it talks about position, and that's the one I use. And I think it was like June or July last year I put together one, and I could probably put together another one on square filing. But there's some good ones out there. I know Buck and Billy Ray and I noticed a couple others out there that they're top notch on the square filing. They do a lot of it, but and he kind of does it the same way I do, from the inside to the outside. He puts it up into a vise and works from the inside to the outside. He's got some good video on that. Yeah, Guilty of Treason has an excellent one. Those guys are really sharp, and they do really well with the safety and the cutting techniques and all. I've been really enjoying watching their videos over the past year or so. Square filed clearing saw blade. Yeah, I played with it on the. It's Husqvarna. I can't remember the name of it, but it has an offset tooth. I'd have to look up the actual part number and name on it. But Soren and I both, when we did a lot of clearing saw work, used the square file on it, and it worked very well. Now some of the other blades, with the tooth type configuration, it doesn't work on a semi chiseled tooth very well, but on that offset, and the thing on it, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, you can file that blade, and I think Husqvarna has it. You can file that blade, and it just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller as you file it. The whole circumference goes down. And that was the best one that we used in all of our clearing saw training. And the square file worked pretty good on it. I always liked to use the square file because you could take and be able to take any burrs off of the tops of the teeth, and then you could take and file the faces of them also. And then all you needed then was just the offset tool to be able to bend the points out. And so it worked really good, but I haven't tried it on either. I guess some of the mounted type teeth on the discs, I haven't really ever played with those too much, and I don't think most of those I think are semi-chiseled teeth on those anyway. But yeah, it can work on a couple of those models of blades. All right, Diggin, thanks for dropping by, and we're going to try to do another live here probably next week sometime, so I'll get that posted, and hopefully my stream will come up on time next time. You have a good one. Stay warm up there. Well, folks, if there's no other questions, we've been on here quite a while, I guess. I'm going to maybe sign off here, and took a while to get everything going tonight. But I'm going to try middle of next week. Laura's going to be out of town, so I'm going to maybe try to do a couple of lives. So we will keep it posted and come back. So if you have any questions or whatever, you can also email me at timard@forestapps.com. So that's a way to get in touch with me. So it's on most of the videos. That's just timard@forestapps.com. So keep in touch. But I want to thank all y'all for coming by, and hopefully you pick up some things off of the videos. I appreciate all your comments and your followings. Please make sure you subscribe and press those like buttons. Kind of get in a challenge watching those things now, but it's something where I try to keep these things going. I'd like to see it growing. So you have a great evening, folks, and good sawing to you. We'll see you later. Bye.